Hi everyone, welcome to episode 197 of the Digital Tourism Show. And in this video, we have the pleasure of speaking with Oskar Bruening of PeekPro. We will be discussing the future of booking systems, particularly in the wake of acquisitions by TripAdvisor and Booking.com. How you can choose the best platform that is right for your business, and we'll also be discussing Peek's direct integration with Google search results, allowing users to book directly within Google. It should be an interesting chat. Hi everyone, welcome to another Digital Tourism Show, and we have the pleasure of speaking with Oskar from Peek. How are we doing, Oskar?
Good. Hi. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very good, thanks. Seems a long time ago since I saw you again, but we obviously finally met face to face in Arrival. I thought, I don't know about you, but I thought Arrival was such a great event. It was really good. It was one of the best events I have been to in a long time.
Yes, absolutely.
So sort of some of our viewers and some of our listeners may not know who Peek are, so do you want to give people a little sort of general information on what you guys do and who you are?
Yeah, I'll start off with myself real quick, 5-second rundown. So I'm originally from Germany. I'm originally from Germany. And then came to US, always kind of had a leg in computer science, interested in computers, started coding when I was 14. Went to MIT, did an undergrad and master's there, came out to San Francisco and Silicon Valley, because that's where you go when you're in technology. Was at a number of companies, large and small companies, enterprise security companies, so big, complicated software. But always had sort of a passion for this industry. My dad was a sailing instructor. And so through common friends, met my co-founder, and we decided to start this company. And so I'm the CTO, I'm the co-founder. Ruswana is the CEO. With great sort of match. I run all of the product, everything that's product related at Peek. And so Peek has two components to it. The one that most operators are more familiar with is PeekPro, which is a booking system. Booking system is not, I don't even think it gives it the term really justice. Sure. We basically we're the backbone of every tour operator's business. So you have your online widget, you have your website, you can take online bookings through our widgets on your website, and we'll help you with that. But we also have mobile apps that help you run your business, cash drawer integrations for your front desk staff, digital waivers, mobile apps for you and actually also for your customers. There's a lot of different pieces, and we help you really with every aspect of working with your customers, tracking that information, making sure they get the emails, all of those kind of things, your accounting reports, all those maybe not so fun things, but really like the backbone of a tour operator's business.
Wow, how long have you guys been running for?
We've been around for 6 and a bit years now. So it's been a great ride. It's actually it's been really exciting. When we came into this industry, we saw the opportunity, just because more from a consumer perspective, as well as you go on a trip and you're like, how do you even find where you can go? How do you even find like these activities? Because there's so many people offering these really interesting things, and the only way to find out about it is through your friends or your family or Facebook, TripAdvisor, like Lonely Planet guidebooks. There are all these different sources that you kind of resource and figure out and then build yourself an itinerary. And we came in, we were like, hey, this is terrible. This can be done better. And it's been really exciting because it's really the industry is waking up to it. We came in at a good time where sort of people started to wake up, but we had enough time to really kind of get to know the industry and really build a great product also for tour operators. Because now, if you go last month there was Arrival, which was a big tour industry conference. It's it's only the second conference in this space, and the second Arrival. And so now all of a sudden there's this excitement, and we're coming in with we actually know this space. We have product built for it. We want to help this industry move forward. So it's really exciting time now.
Yeah, and that sort of leads pretty much into my first sort of main question. And terms of, as you know yourself, just about every month you hear about another booking platform being acquired by an OTA or whatever it would be, or something happening in the industry like that. So how do you see the future of systems like yourself, and because of what's happening in the industry, and the future of PeekPro, of course, which may be affected by it?
Yeah. So it's really interesting, and it's not just the recent acquisition, but those who remember Zerv, which was a system like a few years back. There is, I think that sort of what naturally happens as industries mature. There is the bigger players who are sort of tangential. Maybe they haven't, like Expedia, for example. They were focused on hotels and flights, and they're like, oh, tours and activities. We had sort of been working on that for a while. They want to start investing in it, right? Because there's money to be made, and the industry's growing up. More and more operators, part of what we do is we bring tour operators online, right? You have people who until now have always been on pen and paper or spreadsheets. Yeah. Now they have real-time inventory that companies like Expedia can actually access. And so that makes it possible for Expedia and companies like Expedia, TripAdvisor, Booking, all these OTAs, to actually invest into this market. And it's really exciting that that's happening. I think the interesting from my perspective is, and so part of their investment is also to acquire booking systems and actually, or like acquire companies that are somewhat successful in this space already, that gives them just so that they don't have to build it, right? They're not just acquiring the product, but they're acquiring the customers on that platform, and they're acquiring the team that has experience in the industry. But I think also with this proliferation, there's also a lot more companies out there now building booking systems. There's a lot more tour operators who are like, hey, I'm a zipline provider. I'm building my own system. You're my buddy. You're a zipline provider. Why don't you use the same system?
Sure.
And so I think what's happening is I think everybody kind of wants to go into this space. Everybody wants to come after the operators and kind of help them and have them on their platform. What I love about the situation right now is that even though I have concerns about these big guys owning the platform, I'm not a big fan of that. I think it's smart on their end. It's really, Booking is sort of the big example just because they acquired FareHarbor, which is, one of the biggest companies in this space.
Sure.
And they acquired all those customers, right? And they acquired not just those customers, but a lot of these operators have websites on FareHarbor. And now those are booking websites, right? Booking can put a retargeting pixel on that website and retarget that person with a booking email, even though that person coming to that website might have come through an ad that the operator actually put out, right? There's these kind of things bother me.
Yeah.
Having said that, if you're booking, that's probably one of the smartest things you could have done is buy something like FareHarbor. But what I love about it is that the operators have choice, right? They're not locked. It's not like there's 3 systems out there and you either pick the booking system or you pick the TripAdvisor system, or like Peak is the largest independent booking system out there, but there's a lot of other ones out there as well. So the operator actually has a choice in the matter. And because there's not sort of everybody's on one system, even like the Bookings and the TripAdvisors and the Expedias, they want to have access to that inventory, so they have to play nice.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's something there. It's a little dangerous right now because of these big guys trying to bully their way into the industry. Having said that, I think there's a lot, like technology has gotten so easy to build new products, and that you can see that in the number of booking systems out there, that I think it's going to be hard for them to say, we have the only booking system and actually push that as push that through. Also because a lot of we see that and Douglas at the Arrival mentioned that OTAs drive on average only 4% off the traffic to a tour operator, right? Even though the OTA wants to control the booking system,
sure,
the OTA is just one component of how they get bookings, right? They get 96% of their bookings come from concierges or their website and all these other places. And so I think that's also puts the operator more into a driver's seat of saying no, I actually need a booking system that works for me end to end. And no, I'm not going to take this, Booking or whatever system just because I want to be on TripAdvisor.
No, I completely agree. I actually wrote a part of the reason why I think a lot of these, and I wrote an article on this recently, but part of the reason why I think a lot of these like TripAdvisor experiences and all these other companies are buying booking platforms, and it's a subject we'll come to later on, but it's based on what Google are doing in the space as well, and I think it's maybe got them a little bit frightened in terms of what can happen with that, but it's something we can come on to. But in terms of what the OTAs are doing at the moment, OTA, I think people must think I must hate OTAs because I always seem to complain about them. But I actually think OTAs are a necessary step in terms of growing a business or people wanting to get on the ladder quickly to then get their tours out there and stuff like that for people to make bookings. I understand that. But the technology that they're creating is very much in terms of customer focused, which isn't a bad thing. No, and I completely agree with that side of things. But what it seems to be, from where I'm sitting, where it seems to be is it's at the detriment of the actual suppliers themselves. So the suppliers are getting squeezed and squeezed and squeezed, and that's the side of it I don't like. I've seen far too many businesses rely heavily on TripAdvisor for 90% of their bookings. Some businesses are completely reliant on these guys, and when TripAdvisor make one change, for example, they lose 45% of their sales because of it. So there's pros and cons for each thing. So, but and that sort of, sorry, on you go.
No, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that sort of leads on to the sort of second question I was going to put to you in terms of, obviously we were both at Arrival. We both heard Dermot Halpin's talk on stage in terms of that he let slip that people who will use Bocon system will have higher rankings on TripAdvisor. Personally, I think that's a bad thing. But how do you think that will affect other systems, like yourselves as well, using something like TripAdvisor? And do you think it's bad for the industry if he was to do them?
So, I'll answer that. Like the one thing I was going to throw in earlier, I think there's a lot of sort of people are very upset with TripAdvisor specifically because of that incident. But I think in general, there's also recently they added a feature where you can link, like basically if you're not on Viator, they'll link to a competitor on the TripAdvisor page.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Right, those kind of things. People are very upset about it. I think there's a lot of, like, to your point, I think people are scared. Mm-hmm. And I have obviously, like, I'll you'll hear me be negative on some of these things. I just want to kind of preface it a little bit. Overall, I'm incredibly excited and positive about it, because I think these are good problems. It's basically, these are growing pains of the industry. You have all these big guys. Everybody's trying to figure out, what does this mean? How do we get more customers? We live in a time where you have millennials are starting to really make money and they want to spend it on experiences. And so that also means operators have to change how they offer their experiences, all of that. I think there's a lot of really good things that's going to come. I think these negative points have to be addressed. They have to be taken care of. You have to keep these OTAs in check. But overall, just kind of before getting into sort of my concerns around TripAdvisor, I just want to put that out there because I think it is actually really important to realize overall, this is awesome. This is a great process that there's finally movement in this industry.
I suppose they're helping take things forward, and as you say, it is growing pains. There's some people are going to be annoyed, some people are going to be happy. It's eventually, hopefully, after the dust settles, there'll be a really good system that everyone can get into, and it improves the industry as a whole. So we can only just hope that's what's going to happen.
But yeah, to come back to your question around the TripAdvisor announcement. So I think the two things that really stood out for me, there's two things that I think. The first one is the things he said, which is basically, hey, if you're on Bocon, then you get preferential treatment on TripAdvisor. Yeah. And I think that, that was very upsetting. Also, it's a little odd because, like, Bocon has less than 100 operators in all of the US that we're aware of at most. So then it's not like it's a successful platform. Yeah. But what sort of struck me about it was, this is the first time I feel like in TripAdvisor's history, at least for this industry, where they came out and said, we don't care about the end consumer. Until now, it was always the end consumer, show them the best pages, serve the consumer with the best reviews, the best page, like all of that. And for the first time, it was we're in it to make money. Yeah. Right? We're in it, like, we have business priorities. and it is not just about the end consumer. The second thing that was interesting was what wasn't said was, like, in my mind, is you could have owned that conversation by saying, and yeah, we're going to start driving all these, if you're on Boken, you're going to get preferential treatment. And it's because we're going to throw 100 engineers at Boken, and Boken in the next 2 years is going to be the best booking system for tour operators, hands down. We are all in that. We believe in that. And that would have been a very different message, but they didn't say that, right? And which basically tells you they don't care about Boken either, right? They don't care about Boken being a great solution for tour operators. They just want the tour operators locked into the system so that they have as much data and as much control of the tour operators. And so I think they just, it sounded like a screw up, to be honest. Like, I think
I agree.
Both of those sides are like, we don't care about the consumer and we don't care about the tour operators. All we care about is TripAdvisor.
Yeah.
So
that was the message I got. No, it was, again, that's why I was saying, no, that it seems to be the detriment of the suppliers, and eventually will be the detriment of the end consumer as well. And that is one of the reasons why, obviously, they're trying to make Boken as attractive as possible by pretty much giving it away for free, which it was actually quite interesting in itself, because it pretty much devalued Boken as a system. So it's just it's just crazy, absolutely crazy. I went from a fairly not popular system, but a fairly decent system, and then with some value to basically be not worth nothing. It's crazy.
And there's a saying that, and this applies to like Facebook and some of these other things too, but because they give Boken away for free, this is sort of like should ring. Nothing in life is free, right? There's a saying like, if the product is free, you're the product, right? They give you Boken for free because they don't care about Boken, they care about you, right? They want you on their system. They want you as an operator be locked into it.
Yeah, no, definitely. So my third question would be is obviously online bookings is a huge part of helping businesses generate revenue these days, but it can sometimes be a daunting task for a business owner, and especially a small tour operator, to select a system that they feel is going to suit their needs. So what advice could you give to those who are maybe unsure of who to select? What's the sort of things they should be looking out for to help them select a system like yours or whoever would be more beneficial to them?
Yeah. So, and I'm not going to take full credit for this advice. That came also from Christian Watts, who did a session at Arrival around it that I attended, answering that question. So he had some really good pointers that I'm going to bake into this as well. But basically his idea was, the first step is go out and talk to 2 or 3 systems and just understand what are the kind of features, what are the kind of things that are out there, what are these booking systems do, right? Like, because in the end, a lot of it, I look at the booking system, as I said, like booking, I don't like the term booking system. We're like a suite of business tools for your business. And so it's a lot more than just your online booking experience. And so I think it's really important just to understand sort of like what can these systems do, what they can and cannot do. Just do a couple demos, learn about it, and then go back to your team and then work with your team on figuring out what are the things, where are the pain points in our company, right? What are some of the things that what are we struggling with? If it's like, hey, we're in Florida and we have a boat and it takes us 30 minutes to load that boat, and our customers are standing in a line for 30 minutes in the heat trying to get on that boat, that is a terrible customer experience, right? So what can we do to streamline that onboarding experience? Or, hey, we don't get enough, our digital waivers take way too long during the check-in process. Or, hey, we actually want to invest on digital marketing. We need a booking system that can handle, I'm hiring this marketing agency. What can I do? Like I need a booking system that can work with that marketing agency and give them the data that they need. So just kind of figuring out, where do you want to be? What are your challenges? And kind of creating a sort of like a core list of like, whatever I pick, these are the things that it needs to be able to solve. And even though most of these businesses are very different, in my experience, a lot of those core problems are actually very similar. And that's sort of why I would do the demo up front with just a couple of systems, just to really, they'll give you ideas on the kind of things that you're like, oh, I didn't even think about this problem being solvable by adding a booking system.
Mm-hmm.
But that's really interesting. So, and then the next step is then you're basically having your list, start interviewing, start basically going around, looking at different systems, set yourself a deadline. Hey, within a month or a month and a half, I'm going to have something, I'm going to have a booking system selected. And so at that point, you interview with the different systems, you go through your feature list, and then also be open to what the sales rep will tell you about what other things the system can do, because a lot of them might have actually bells and whistles that you're not aware of. But usually, like at least at Peak, we work with so many tour operators that our sales team, they often know, like, hey, you're in water sports. I have 3 other people that moved to Peak on water sports. Here's how they run their business. Here's some of the things that they're doing that we, and kind of like bringing in, without specifics, but kind of sort of a best practices ideas that you might not actually be aware of. And you'll get that from different sales reps and different systems and all of that. And the other thing, so I think that's a good process. And then the second part, what I always recommend people to look for is, don't just evaluate the booking system as a booking system as it is right now. This industry is changing incredibly fast. You want not just a piece of software, you want a technology partner, because you don't want to switch again in a year when all of a sudden Google enters the market with a whole other product. Well, Google's a bad example because they just entered. Bing or some Microsoft or whoever comes in with something amazing for this industry, and now you're stuck on a system that can't support it and says like, well, it takes us a few years to add support for these things, and all of a sudden you start being left behind. So it's really important to evaluate the booking system as, are they on top of what's happening in the industry? And that's sort of the best indicator for that, because it's sort of, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how they will handle it. In my experience, it's like when you interview people, when you hire people, the best trick for that is, how have they done in the past, right? Like, look at their performance year over year, quarter over quarter. How have they been keeping up with the industry changes? How have they constantly been evolving? Have they been adding features? Have they brought out new innovations? Have they brought out new integrations? Whatever it is, but what have they historically done? Because that'll give you some indication of confidence, and that they'll be able to continue doing that once you're on their platform.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic answer to that question. It's I have personally dealt with so many booking platforms over the years with my own business, and you can, even just by looking at them, you can see that some have just stood still and then just haven't grown forward, but they still seem to get customers, and you're just thinking, well, I know you guys are very much, and that's one of the questions we'll come to, are very much at the forefront of things that are happening in the industry and stuff like that. So that is one of the things, is look what's happened in the past, and if a booking platform has kept up to date with the latest trends and everything else, that tends to be a good indication. So yeah, can't agree more.
And one other one, ask for references. Like, ask for, obviously, a sales rep is always going to give you their glowing references. But a good question, for example, if they say like, oh, we don't have this, but we'll build it soon, or something, it's coming soon. When you have a reference, ask for a reference, and then ask the reference, hey, have they promised you something and actually delivered on that? Or was that just an empty promise to get you onto the platform?
Yeah. And I know for some systems there's very many Facebook groups out there who of maybe disgruntled customers or whatever it would be, who just create groups to talk about systems as well. I'm on a few of them myself, just to sort of see what sort of feedback people are giving, and even just joining them and asking the questions. No, it's always a good thing. Yeah. No, one of the things you mentioned there, and that answer was part of how you can track bookings, that type of thing, and that, to me, that obviously being a marketing agency, that's such a huge aspect of it, and I know some systems are not that great at it, and some are better than others. So how does PeekPro approach tracking bookings from start to finish through the whole booking process?
Yep. So I'll preface that, like, marketing in my mind is one of sort of my personal things that I'm really excited about, especially in this industry. And we've been very focused on that. And I'll walk through some examples for that. But I think just from a bigger picture, I think, like, for example, operators should own their website. They should control their website. Like, this is where, like, to your point earlier, if you're dependent on TripAdvisor and they change the algorithm and all of a sudden you lose X% of your business, you have no control over that.
Yeah.
So with marketing, it is something where you're empowered to control your own destiny, and Peak wants to help with that. So kind of like some of the, and that's also something like we always think about, what are the things we can do more of that will continue to help with that? And what are the things that are sort of new that are coming out? And I'll mention a couple. So for the online booking flow, so we have, online booking flow, you put it on your website, you can start taking bookings right away. There's some of the things that you can do with that is, a lot of these very common ones is Google integration, so Google Analytics and Google AdWords. Mm-hmm. So if you're spending money on Google Ads, you can see the ROI on all of that. Similarly, we have integration with Facebook, so you can do Facebook tracking, and that has sort of two benefits. One is you can see the ROI on any customer going into your booking flow, coming from a Facebook ad, going through and buying, so you can see your ad spend on Facebook, how it translates into real dollar. The second thing you can do with that Facebook pixel is for new customers that found you somehow differently and got to your website and don't finish the booking flow, you can retarget them with Facebook ads later. Yeah. So it actually helps you build an audience and helps you actually track these people. And we have one of the more sophisticated integrations with Facebook pixel. We actually tell Facebook the level of intent. So depending on where you drop off in the booking flow, we pass that information to Facebook. So if you say like, hey, I want to save money, I really only want to target my ads at the people with high intent, the ones that dropped up on the billing screen, on the very last screen, you can do that. Or if you want to target your ads on people who are like, oh, anybody who just looked at it, you can do that too. So we provide that information. We also allow you to put custom JavaScript on this sort of highly technical, but you can put custom JavaScript on your completion page. So basically you can integrate, if there are other systems that you use to track conversions, most of them have some kind of JavaScript pixel, something, you can drop that in with us. We have affiliate widgets. I actually don't know if anybody else does this. Basically, you can set up our widgets and your website that when somebody comes to your website with a specific query, like parameter in the URL, sort of similar to UTM source, how you track all of that, we pick that up and we convert all the buttons on your website into affiliate buttons, meaning that any booking that goes through now from that customer gets tracked back all the way to the person that drove you that booking. So if you have a blogger and the blogger links to your website with an affiliate component in the URL, and then the customer comes on that website, they check out your website, maybe they leave, maybe they come back 10 days later. When they go booking, that booking gets associated with that original blogger. So you know that this blog post or whatever it is drove you that booking.
That's incredible.
And sometimes right? And it's not, I'm really excited about it. This is sort of the kind of thing where this is sort of where I feel like this is so commonplace in all these other industries. And this industry is kind of playing catch up. And I love bringing in these ideas from different other industries into the space. It's not rocket science, but it's a really sort of, it's very, it's very powerful. But it also means like as an operator, I have to now go out and make friends with the bloggers and offer them a commission or something, right? Yeah. So there's definitely work there. But those are the kinds of things I get excited about.
I think we have Zapier integrations. Sorry to interrupt. I was going to say, I think you might be the only ones who do that. No, again, I may be wrong, but I remember a few years ago, a customer was asking for a similar type of system. It could do that with the affiliate marketing, and at that time we didn't know about Peak, but no, we didn't. We couldn't find anyone at that point that would have that. So that's good to know that you do that. So
yes, and it's relatively new. We launched in the last 6 months. We haven't really advertised it yet. We're trying to figure out. Because for us, the biggest challenge is not necessarily always building the feature, but it's also how do you educate the operator on, hey, we have this thing, but now you need to go out and talk to bloggers. You need to figure out who can drive your traffic. And here, like the technology is only one component of that. Mm-hmm. And that's always in some ways, that's the other part of the challenge, that when we build a feature, we don't often immediately announce it because we want to work with, we have beta customers that work with us that give us feedback on like, hey, this works really well, but if you could add this, it'd be that much more powerful. Yeah. So once we feel like we have a good package, then we announce and we say like, hey, can do these things. Having said that, any Peak operators that are listening, if you want this, let us know. We are ready to go, and we can help you get set up.
That's great, and that sort of answers or sort of prefaces the question we had earlier about, you know, keeping up to date with the latest trends, latest technologies, and that sounds like that's exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I have a couple more. Another big one for us has been Zapier. So Zapier is sort of one of those companies that a lot of people don't know about. It's basically an integration hub.
Yeah.
And so what it allows us to do is we push bookings. You set it up with us. We push booking into Zapier, and then Zapier can send it to all sorts of other systems. So MailChimp is a typical one. People want, they want to do marketing campaigns. So through Zapier, you can integrate with MailChimp. You can integrate with Constant Contact and a whole lot of these other tools. And Zapier had over 1,000 integrations now.
Yeah.
So it's just like you can have it sent to Slack. So if you want your team to get pumped every time you get a booking over $1,000 or whatever, you said, you can set it up through Zapier that it just pushes it through into
We've
Slack.
Got that for our own business.
Huh?
We've got that for our own business. We have we use HubSpot for our own CRM system, that type of thing, and we did use Zapier, but we actually use now Automate.io, which is a very similar system to Zapier.
Yeah, there's a few of them out there.
But we have a message anytime I mark in the CRM system a new customers came on board. It pretty much sends out a little dancing GIF to everyone in Slack, and
And Slack is great for that. Slack has built so many integration points, and so Zapier. The reason I love Zapier is because it taps into that. Actually, I'll highlight another one that one of our operators does. There's a company called Proof, and they do these urgency generators. Basically, his point is when you go to his website, it's like an empty restaurant and you don't want to go into an empty restaurant, right? You want to see other people eating there. But a website, by definition, is an empty restaurant because you don't know who else is on that website.
Sure.
And so Proof is one of those companies that create these, what are called urgency generators, that basically have these little pop-ups that come in and says, so and so many people are looking at this website. Or, John from Minnesota just bought this activity, right? And so it kind of like and this is real data. This is not made up. And so by us pushing that data through Zapier into Proof, he can have on his website these pop-ups that actually provide real data for his real customers. And anybody coming to his website feels a lot more confident that, like, this is actually a legitimate website, right? And this is a legitimate booking.
Excellent.
So that's why I love Zapier. It's like there's a lot of these kind of companies out there, and we're not going to necessarily integrate with all of them.
Yeah.
But a lot of them are integrating with Zapier, and by us integrating with Zapier, you can push that out.
Yeah, it is the most popular one. No, that's for sure. As you say, they've got hundreds of different types of connections, and it's even little simple things like when you can have if someone fills out a form on the website or even takes a booking. Obviously, that can notify, as you mentioned, Slack, but you can even have that for people who still like spreadsheets. They can even fill in a line within a row of a spreadsheet in a Google spreadsheet, so you can actually keep everything in a spreadsheet for those people, because I know there's a lot of tour operators out there who still love their spreadsheets, but it even fills in them as well automatically and stuff like that. So it's having that sort of automation is so good. So
Zapier is very magical.
Yeah.
And we have some very trained people on that. That basically, if there are, there's a lot of things that we can do through Zapier, which has been great.
Yeah, and it takes a little bit of the development work away from other businesses like yourself and other companies, because Zapier is the one who creates all these things, and all you need to do is click in and join them up, and off you go. It's great, so good.
Yeah.
So on you go.
Sorry, I had a couple more. If I get to
fire away. This is all great stuff.
Well, I'm gonna just plug one more that I'm really excited about. Is we announced this at Arrival. We're in the beta program right now, but we're building a mobile app for tour operators. So it's not an app for the operator itself. It's a brandable app for their customers.
Excellent.
So basically, if I run a boat tour or if I run a skiing trip or something like that, I can get my customers to download the app. And as an operator, I can customize and brand the app, and it has all the ticketing information, safety videos, pickup location, contact information, sort of like everything you need to know before you go on that trip in an app, and also like streamlining check-in process. But the reason this is exciting for me from a marketing perspective is it's upsell opportunity, right? It is another touch point with the customer where you can actually say like, hey, by the way, you're going on this tour. There are 3 VIP seats left. Would you like one? Or afterwards, hey, you like this tour. Here is a link to the gift cards. Why don't you gift this tour to somebody else? You can do push notification like, hey, it's been a year since you've done our tour. Are you in? Our new season started. Are you interested? This is in beta right now in private beta. Again, kind of that theme of like, we have the app, works on iOS and Android. We have a few key operators that we're working with. There's so much you can possibly put into that app that we want to figure out sort of what are the most common ones, what are the most practical ones. But that app is also already available. So that's something that I personally get excited for because mobile is it's becoming more and more and more important for tour operators.
Well, definitely. And that sort of leads on to my last question in terms of how busy you guys seem to be in developing things. Well, PeekPro, and again, this is one of the reasons why my first question was about TripAdvisor buying booking platforms, etc. No, PeekPro are actually one of the first systems to be integrated directly with Google. And for our viewers and listeners who don't know about this, because it's not something consumers know a lot about as of yet, but it is something that's going to become more to the forefront in the years to come. But for our viewers, what this means is when someone does a Google search for a particular product or tour or whatever, say kayaking in, I don't know, whatever, kayaking in the Rocky Mountains or something like that. When someone searches that, it'll come up within the side panel of Google, and people can actually book directly within Google or within Google Maps. So what this actually means is, well, for the OTAs, it's one of the reasons why I feel that they're buying booking platforms because Google are doing this. But it means that the users can then do two things. They can bypass OTAs and book directly with the supplier themselves. But it also means that people will book without even visiting your website, which is incredible, I think. So you guys were one of the first ones to develop and be integrated with Google. So how are you finding that? What do you think this is going to be the future? How people will book? Do you think people will go to websites in the future, or do you think it will all be driven through things like Google?
I think Google is really exciting for the reasons that you mentioned. Part of the reason we were one of the first was, Google's been kind of thinking about building this for a while. And to your point, like basically what the integration is, it's not an integration with a specific Google product like the search or the maps. It's with Reserve with Google, which is a platform or infrastructure tool that is built within Google that Google then wants to roll out to as many of their assets or as many of their products that they have. So they basically, it's sort of like an in-between technical component. We've known these guys for a while, like, you run into people at conferences and all of that. And part of the reason we push very, very hard to be one of the first is this kind of comes back to the things that bothered me about this industry and that I'm excited about now. The industry is catching up. And one of the things that's not been happening enough yet is sort of standardized APIs. APIs is basically ways for systems to talk to each other. And all of these are very old systems and old connection ways. And Google basically came in, and we are looking at Google as like, hey, there's this really great opportunity. Let's work very closely with them to make sure they build a good way that, like, something like, let's bring in all our experience, domain expertise of building technology for tour operators and educate Google on building these connections right, because otherwise, in the end, you want to do upsells, you want to do some of these other things that are very specific to this industry. And if Google just copied a hotel connection or some other connection, the operator is kind of, they don't get that information that's necessary. And so that was a part of us really wanting to be part of that conversation, just for the industry in general. I'm personally really excited about it. I think you mentioned Google Maps. That's the one I'm most excited about. Google Maps is, in my mind, the killer application. Everybody has it on their phone, and everybody uses it on a regular basis. And when you have Google Maps right now already, it tells you the points of interest nearby, right? It says like, hey, here's this restaurant. Here is the Eiffel Tower. You have all these different, the attraction, all the other, if now a pin comes up and it's like, hey, this is the this is where we run this tour or something like that, and you can book it from directly there. You don't have to go to the website. You don't have to go anywhere else. It's like right there in downtown, wherever, right? It's actually, you're catching people who are still trying to figure out where they're at. If they just got to Union Square here in San Francisco, they're still exploring Union Square. They're looking at the map to see what's nearby. They're not in the mindset of, hey, let me look for a tour, right? They're still in the mindset, I just got here. And you're catching them with like, hey, would you like to do this thing? Do you like Union Square? Would you like to learn more about the food history of Union Tour, the cocktails, or the, whatever it is? And I think that's, for me, one of those themes for this industry and things where I would like to see this industry go is right now with the OTAs, with a lot of these big companies, they're all focused on SEO, meaning very much on how when people Google something, they want to make sure that it goes to TripAdvisor or it goes to Expedia, all of that. That feels like a very old school way of looking at it. I think the much bigger opportunity is to catch people before they're thinking about even Googling it, right? The moment you Google something, you know what you want. But if I can get into your Instagram feed on, hey, you're into kayaks or you're into sailing or you're into this, and I start getting you ads about sailing or kayaking, or if I get into on Google Maps in a place where like, hey, I just got here and I can service you with recommendations, that is so much more powerful.
Definitely.
Because you discover things that you otherwise would have never even heard about or never even considered. And you're like, oh, I didn't know there is zip lining in downtown, wherever, right? And so I think that to me is really, really, that's where I feel like that's where the bigger opportunity is.
I couldn't agree more. And the thing that excites me as well is I know for some booking or for a lot of booking platforms, it's not really the booking platforms. It's more the industry's sort of issue is the time you have for booking. No, it's usually you can only book up to an hour before the tour starts or whatever that would be. But if you have something like Google, somebody searching in New York Times Square, for example, and then all of a sudden this tour pops up saying, hey, this tour's going to start in 5 minutes. Do you want no? We've still spaces left. Someone could pretty much minute by minute book the tour, go on the tour, and it's very much that sort of impulse buy, in the moment, wanting to experience something. Because as you say, not everyone goes to a destination and knows exactly what how they're going to plan their day in, day out. So, they want to basically do a tour or go to a restaurant at the time it's suitable to them. And if something just pops up on their phone to say, hey, this is going to be available in 10 minutes or 5 minutes or half an hour, that make them have a conversation with their partner or whoever they're with and just go, let's do it and let's go out and do it. I think that's an incredible thing to hope that it comes up in the future. So.
Yeah. And not just for travelers, but even like that sort of with Google Maps, I use it here in the city all the time, right? Yeah. Like I'm like going to this new place that I don't know, right? If something pops up, I'm gonna like remember that for the weekend, right? Like tours and activities, we're thinking so much about the traveler, but you have that same problem when you're at home. You had like home with like the kids, and you're like, what am I gonna do this weekend? And you're like end up on your local newspapers. You're asking your friends. You have your list of things that you track of, hey, we should do this at some point. Right? If you can get into that, that's so much more traffic because, there's 52 weekends in a year.
Yeah.
But you don't go on vacation quite as much. So those opportunities just seem like there's a lot to do there.
Yeah, and having two kids myself, trying to find things to do is a nightmare at times. So anything they can do to help with that would be a godsend. Well, is there anything that's I could speak to you about this all day? To be honest, I love the fact that you guys seem to be at the sort of forefront in terms of the technology, the things that you're bringing out. The two things that you mentioned there with being integrated with Google, etc. And the whole affiliate thing that really excites me as well. And I think you'll be onto a winner with both. So for our viewers, is there anything you wish to add? That's my questions over. So if you've got anything you wish to add to the end of this, is there anything you want to say?
Yeah, I think the part, like as we said, there's a lot changing in this industry right now, and it's daunting, right? Like in the end, you're running a business where my bus just broke down, my driver didn't show up. You're basically constantly fighting these fires, and it's easy to put off these bigger decisions of, do I need to move on to a booking system? Or, hey, I have a booking system. Do I need to hire a marketing agency or anything like that? And so that's I totally understand that that's daunting. Having said that, it's really important to educate yourself. And so that's why, like, I love there's now like podcasts. You mentioned the Facebook groups of other operators, even just kind of like see if there's a meetup or start a meetup, right? Like, I think this industry is really waking up. And one of the most important things for a tour operator, I think, is to educate themselves, because you have more and more business will change. If you're like and it's not even like the TripAdvisors of the world, but if you think about if you have a bike rental business, now there's all these bike, like Uber just bought Jump Bike, right? Which are these electronic bikes that are throughout the city. Anybody can just like rent one with their Uber app.
Yeah.
Right. And if I was a rental bike operator, I'd be terrified, right? So you need to rethink, what is the value I have? How do I rethink my business? How do I differentiate myself? And these things are changing everywhere. Like, start educating. You don't have to immediately pull the plug and be like, let's go all in, start 2019 with a new system and new agency, all of that. But start reading blogs, start listening to podcasts, start talking to other people, start understanding what other operators have tried, what worked for them. It's always competition, but honestly, like, I'll end on the last one on this. I've talked to a lot of operators, and they consider somebody in their town that does the same thing a competition. They don't want to talk to them. We have a 2 bus tour operators here in San Francisco that are very similar, and they are competitive, but they're doing their own thing. They're both on peak. They run their own marketing. But when one of them has, like the bus breaks down and they already had a booking, they basically just call the other guy and say like, hey, I'm sorry, like my bus broke down. Can you take these guys? I'll pay for it. Right. And the customer basically gets booked on a different tour, but at least they get to go on that tour. And so they have that friendly competition, and it reflects then. And the reason I even found out about it is because I looked at one of these guys' TripAdvisor reviews, and there was this glowing review of a customer that was like, it was going to be like the bus broke down and they were just on top of it. They got us with this other tour operator, and it was a great experience at the end. And I think that's something, I'll leave it with that. I think there's so much opportunity in this space. I think this is sort of the optimist in me, but like, I feel like we all benefit from working more closely together, even though like you have the OTAs and some of these people trying to bully operators and bully the businesses into certain like use Boken or whatever it is. But I think like there's so much more opportunity if everybody works together.
That's a good note to end on. Well, Oskar, if people want to get in touch, your website is peekpro.com, I believe.
Yeah, peekpro.com. That's the easiest way to get a hold of us.
Excellent.
I think peek.com/pro works as well. But yes, either way.
Excellent.
Great.
Well, Oskar, it's been an absolute pleasure. Hopefully the viewers and the listeners have found this useful. So can't thank you enough. So thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.